Hey y'all, this is Joe out here at the cabin at St. Bernard Acres. Thought I would want to enjoy this breeze that comes across this porch in the shade. It's very hot and muggy, and I thought I would do a porch chat for you because I haven't done one for a while. And I'm going to talk about a prepping thing. Now y'all know I'm not one of these preppers, you know, with a prepping channel that, you know, my life is prepping. You know, I have a life outside of prepping. I have some stuff, I do prepare, but I'm not going to do a video a day talking about how S.H.T.F is happening and the world's going to end as we know it and blah 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 blah. Look what I bought today for prepping supplies, you know. I don't think, you know, I don't think we need one of those, you know, I'm not one of those that thinks I got to have 5 or 10 years worth of food, freeze-dried food stored away, because I hope I can grow my own. You know, I've always said, if I can store enough food to last me till my first harvest. So we have plenty, you know, that we can survive if we needed to for a while. But what I wanted to talk about, last week on the news, you probably saw it, in Haiti, all the unrest in Haiti and the rioting. And people were told, or not told to, I guess, more advised to shelter in place. Now, I understand the concept of sheltering in place, and if a natural disaster occurs, you know, flooding, you know, a big storm comes through and knocks out power for a while, or hurricanes. You know, I lived in Houston, we had a couple hurricanes down in Corpus. I know Florida's plenty familiar with them. So yeah, I mean, you know, we have at our house in Wheeling, we have, you know, we could go a couple of weeks comfortably, with the generator, with the gas, with the food and water we have stored there. You know, we could do a couple of weeks of, you know, an emergency situation like that. There was a natural type disaster. Longer if we had to stretch it out. I mean, you know, and I understand the need for that, and I understand the need for the concept of shelter in place for something like that. Where I have concerns with the whole shelter in place, you know, as a prepping device, I'm very fortunate that we have this an hour away. So if I was living out here, then sheltering in place would be no problem. I would hope for that, because this is where I'm going to shelter in place. This is our bug out location if needed, and you know, we will shelter in place here. But where my concerns with shelter in place comes in is, let's say we have a situation like down there, of civil unrest, of rioting. You know, I'm not saying this to be a fact. I'm just telling you all the news media and, you know, what used to be the buzz around the water cooler is now the buzz around, you know, social media. You know, that coming is a civil war, and they're trying to you know, create, you know, a civil war between the citizens. So if that's the case, if something like that were happening, and there was you know, Now, if something like that were to occur, which I don't think, or a military action would occur, with a foreign country attacking us, or any a scenario like that, an S.H.T.F scenario along those lines. Now, I think the government could order us to shelter in place, and I wouldn't want to do that in the city. I would not want to shelter in place during a scenario such as that. Number one, everybody knows, if you're sheltered in place, you have your supplies and everything. How well can you fortify your home in suburbia? Look at where I live in Wheeling and all the houses. I guarantee you, I am probably one of a very tiny percentage of people who have an adequate supply of food and water for a couple of weeks. I guarantee you, no, they don't. And that's good Dr. Pepper. So now you're faced with the marauders and the gangs and the people who are just generally trying to survive and feed their family. So you're going to have to face all of that by being sheltered in place, not being able to be mobile or to get away from that. So that's a concern that I would have. And also, should the government want to enact a martial law, if you will, or order you a lockdown, and a curfew that you can't be out of your home, well, now you're stuck. Now you can't get out, because they're going to have you under lockdown, basically. And I don't want to be that way. I don't want that to come. And I think the smart people, we could see if something like that was coming. We could be, as part of being prepared, is knowing some signs to look for, to know that something is about to happen. And keep your ear to the ground, your eyes open. You'll know when it's time to bug out, if you will. But what I worry about are the people who can't bug out, the people who don't have a place to bug out to. How do they prep? I watch prepping channels. I get ideas, and I like some of the channels and some of the things that they talk about, suggestions that they make. But I don't hear very often people talking about long-term survivability in the city. And I'm curious about it. I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to be able to get away from there. If I can't bring my truck out on the freeway, I can bring my bags and supplies and come out on the four-wheeler going through the country. Now, if certain things happen, obviously you can't do that. You cannot prep. I don't care, any master prepper or prepper master, whatever, you cannot be prepared for everything that's going to happen. I'm prepared for a chance to get away from town and get out here to outlast whatever is going to happen. I think even if we had a civil war and all of that would be solved within a matter of a couple of years, and things would start getting back to some sense of normalcy, I believe. And if it doesn't, whatever it does turn into, I don't want to be a part of anyway. So I'm not necessarily preparing for that. I'm just prepared to get out here and have an opportunity. You know, uh, I do feel a sense of urgency. I think something's going to happen here. You know, in the next few years. I'm not saying tomorrow or next month, but I think something's going to happen. And I'd like to hear from people who are city bound, and maybe you live in an apartment complex or uh, a house in the neighborhood. How do you prepare, or are you prepared, or do you have a plan? And maybe if you do, you can offer suggestions, to people on this channel and who might see it, and maybe get a dialogue going to where you guys can help each other out who are in the city and in apartments and don't have a place they can go to. I'm just curious how that would work. I wouldn't know what to do. I would be prepared for a couple of weeks, living in the city, and that would be it. If I didn't have St. Bernard Acres out here, if I didn't have this cabin, I wouldn't be able to survive long term in my house in the city, because it would be overrun. You can only defend so much, and you just would have to give it up. And I sure don't want to get to where I'm locked down by the government in my house, and then I'm not allowed to leave or allowed to come out here. You're locked down until the FEMA trucks come for you and take you to a camp somewhere. It's a easy way for them to control the populace, if you will, is to make everybody be locked down in their homes, tell them they have to shelter in place, and have them do it out of fear. And then if you can make them fear, then you can control them. And I don't fear out here. I'm not afraid of what they can do to me out here. I would be afraid of what they can do to me in Wheeling, but not out here. It's so remote out here. I took you on the ATV tour, and there are people out here, but it's very sparsely populated. And they're all of like-minded, if you will. They're all prepared, and they're out here for a reason. There's security out here, and safety out here, and maybe in the city environment, that's where you need a group. Maybe one person in the group has the place that everybody's going to congregate to survive at. Maybe you have a group of people and they have all the supplies in one person's basement or something. I'm just curious how that works. I don't know, and I know I'm not willing to shelter in place unless it's a short-term natural disaster type situation. Otherwise, I'm not sheltering in place. I'm sorry. You're going to have to catch me on my way out here. Or just let me get here, one of the two. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on that and how you prepare. And if you prepare, if you think about it. Try to get dialogue going. But this is an oddball porch chat out here at the cabin at St. Bernard Acres. Just something with Haiti being in the news and the whole shelter-in-place suggestion. That's what got me to thinking about that. And I'd like to hear some other thoughts as to how people are planning an event, to go through an event. But That's the end of this porch chat. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you like it. Share it. Talk about it. Make some plans. I think it's important to be prepared, at least a couple of weeks worth. Get that going anyway. Longer term if you're able to. But that's all I've got to say about it. I'm out. Thank you all for watching.